Hey people, welcome to the entire cleaner test, part of the Doomsday Detailing series where I will determine the best chemical for cleaning super dirty tires. After becoming obsessed with car cleaning and detailing, the natural progression for me was to find the best product in each category. Since I live on gravel roads and constantly battle dirty tires, tires were the first thing I wanted to tackle. After doing my due diligence to thoroughly research what was out there, I bought a few products to try out. I was completely disgusted with some. I learned that the big name detailing channels on YouTube are just being paid to push people's products regardless if they work or not. I bought 12 chemicals with my own money and I'm definitely not being compensated by any of them. I chose products that either had the highest reviews, were most commercially available, or could be used for multiple purposes like APCs and degreasers. I had over 6 hours of footage to edit down for this testing. I began by trying to find a chemical that would clean the tire without agitation or scrubbing. Although I did find some that worked pretty well, it's just not a feasible way to clean a tire. You need to plan to scrub a little, so I omitted all that footage, which was over an hour's worth of recording. Some key findings got tossed out with that footage, so I'll try to voice that over while I'm scrubbing on the tires in this video to keep it a little bit shorter. For this test, I'm going to apply medium chemical and medium scrubbing to each tire. I will keep the amount of scrubbing consistent between each tire. I'll apply the chemical to a dry tire to avoid skewing our results with water. I'll scrub immediately and rinse immediately. I'll dunk and rinse the brush in between each chemical to avoid cross-contamination. I'll rinse each tire and let them dry, then we'll evaluate. Before we begin, I'll show you what we're starting with so you can have a good before and after. On this one, on the right we'll have mean green, on the left will be simple green. On this one, on the right side we will have Armor All, and on the left we'll have Adams APC. On this one, this is one of the dirtiest tires, and this is one of the top 4 contenders. We have Adams Wheel and Tire on the right, and Adams Tire and Rubber on the left. On this tire, we will have the Autofanatics on the right and Extra Tough on the left. Here we have Brake Buster on the left and Purple Power on the right. So on this tire, on the right side will be Zep Purple Industrial, on the left will be Super Clean. Alright, so we're starting out with mean green. This is a degreaser I used in college. The bottle lasted me forever. It's like $2 a bottle. I never had any issues with it, but then again, I never tried anything else, so I didn't know if there's anything better. Now I'm trying Adams APC. I use this on interiors. I love it. It smells great. I was really hopeful it'd work great on tires too. It is pretty expensive now that I've looked at the cost per gallon though. It's not real economical solution. And then we're using Armor All's foaming tire and wheel cleaner, and this is one of those commercially available products. It's available at Walmart, Menards, AutoZone, pretty much anywhere that has car cleaning products. Then here is Adams Wheel and Tire. It's a really thick gel. I used it out of the bottle that it came in. It's said to be one of their most aggressive cleaners. It's supposed to be good on brake dust, and I thought this would be a really good one to try out. It might work well on wheels too. And then we go on to their tire and rubber cleaner. This mists on. It's a lot more of a liquid than a gel. It's said to also be good for getting polish and compound off your trim pieces, so I was pretty anxious to try this one out. I actually had to order this one direct though. Here we have the Autofanatics foaming tire and wheel cleaner. You're really supposed to put it in like a pump up foam sprayer or a pressure washer foam cannon, but I tried that and it didn't work worth a darn. Like the foam cannon just totally diluted it too much. It had to be pretty concentrated, so I put it into its own foaming spray bottle. And then we went with Extra Tough. This is one that Pan the organizer was really preaching heavily about, which you'll find out later that it was just a paid advertisement. Now we're using Purple Power. This is the cheapest stuff in the test. It's like $22 plus tax for a 5-gallon jug, and it's just incredible. It's probably really bad for you because it really makes you cough, but man, it really works well if you're just trying to get stuff clean, cheap. And then we went with Brake Buster. This is another one Pan the organizer was preaching heavily about. And it wasn't real cheap. It was about $22 just for 1 gallon. Then we went with the Zep Purple Industrial Cleaner, which is pretty much like the Purple Power in my opinion. Smells the same, looks the same, and it seems to work the same. The SDS sheet says they're totally different chemical makeups, but they both left streaking here because I didn't get them rinsed off quick enough and the sun was too bright. And then lastly, we're doing our super clean, and this is the APC that I'm switching to once I'm gone out of this Adams APC, because it works just as well. It doesn't make you cough at all when you spray it, and you can get it anywhere, and it's nice and cheap. And it actually works probably the best out of all the APCs I've tried. Alright, so first on the left we have Simple Green. It left kind of a white residue, but overall it doesn't seem to have done too bad. Looking up at the top here again just for reference on how it started. On the right we had the Mean Green. For as much browning action as we had going on while we were cleaning, it really doesn't seem to have pulled anything off. Next we have Adams APC over here on the left, and it really doesn't seem to have done much of anything. And then over here on the right we have Armor All, and it's about the same result. It left most of the browning on the tire. And then this one's kind of disappointing. We have the Adams Tire and Rubber on the left, and it left a lot of browning and a lot of white coloring, especially in this bar here kind of in the middle of the tire. There's really just no difference from when we started to when we finished. On the right we have Adams Wheel and Tire, and it really did an outstanding job. If you look at how the tire started compared to how it is now, it didn't pull everything off, but it did a pretty good job for what the tire started as. On the left here we have Extra Tough, and it actually pulled everything off. On the right here we have Autofanatic's foam, and it actually pulled everything off just the same as the Extra Tough. And again, there's the top of the tire, what we started with. We have Brake Buster here on the left. It left quite a bit of browning right on the outside of the sidewall. For Purple Power on the same tire, it pulled all that browning off from the outside of the sidewall, but it left a streak. And this is definitely going to be because I didn't get the tire rinsed off. I let the Purple Power dry a little too long on there. So we'll make sure to rinse off the Purple Power immediately with our next test. Super clean. Wow, it is super clean. It got the tires nice and white, and it literally removed everything. And then on the right we have Zep Purple Industrial. Almost the same exact result as Purple Power, and the same streaking left behind. For round 2, I'm going back over everything a second time, this time with the same amount of chemical, but with heavy scrubbing. I'll also be wetting the tire down before applying chemical, and I'll give each chemical its suggested dwell time before agitating. Since some of our chemicals worked on the first round, if the others can't work with a second round, that's a pretty good indication that they just don't work. Okay, so while I go ahead and scrub these all for a second time, I'd just like to highlight some of the facts that got left out in my initial testing. So I started out looking for a chemical that I could spray on and rinse off and not have to do any scrubbing, just to reduce the amount of physical labor involved and reduce the amount of time spent on weekly maintenance cleaning. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized if I'm going to find a chemical that's strong enough to spray on and hose off, it's going to be a pretty dangerous chemical. It's not going to be something I want to get on my paint or on my wheel finish. So I kind of stepped away from that, but through that testing I found the chemicals that did do a good job of spraying on and hosing off. I could actually just dilute those and get more bang for my buck out of those chemicals, and they were also going to reduce the amount of agitation I'd have to do. So there was some benefit to doing that initial testing. Now you'll see as some of these really foam up well, that actually is no indication whatsoever of their cleaning power, because this Armor All that was foaming here a little bit ago, it is one of the worst performers out of the entire bunch, and yet it foams by far the best out of all of them, and it looks like it's just doing an incredible amount of work, but it's really not. So don't look at foaming as being directly correlated to cleaning power. All the foaming does is it makes it cling. So if it's a vertical surface, like your tire is normally going to be standing up vertical on a vehicle, unless you have something really wrong with your vehicle, yeah, that foaming could help it cling so it doesn't fall down with gravity, but it's pretty much worthless. All right, so now I'm going to show more of the scrubbing I did. I'm editing out a lot of the scrubbing on these so it doesn't get monotonous, but this one I wanted to show you. I really did try to give these chemicals a fair second chance to make sure that they're actually failures. So I gave them plenty of scrubbing just to give them their last chance before I call them out for being worthless. And as I found with some of the cleaners on the bottom end of the totem pole, they really, you know, if you could see browning coming off, that meant they were working, but you might have to apply some of them 5, 6, 7, even 8 times to get all the browning off, whereas with a better cleaner, you're only applying them once or twice to get the same result. So at that point, I just consider those a failure if they take that many tries. And wetting down the tire before I applied the chemical really helped prevent the chemical from drying on the tire. So the simple green really did leave a lot of browning, especially for doing 2 coats. This should have been perfectly clean, and you can still see a film on here. The mean green on the right, this was the worst of the whole test. You can see there's just a ton left on here. The Adams APC left a ton of browning too, but it's just a hair ahead of where the mean green finished. And this Armor All really did just as poorly as the rest, and just reaffirms what I said about how the foaming action really doesn't correlate to the cleaning action. And here we have Adams Tire and Rubber Cleaner, and I did a lot of scrubbing on the second round, and it really didn't clean this tire any more than it did the first round. And actually the wheel and tire didn't clean any more than the first round either. So maybe this tire is a fluke. Maybe we'll give these a second chance on a different tire. Applying the Extra Tough and the Autofanatics on the same tire, the tire was already pretty well clean. It's very clean now. The Brake Buster by P&S is still left all that same amount of browning around the outside of the sidewall. So I'm definitely not impressed by this, and pretty disappointed that people say it does such a great job when it's performing so poorly. For the purple power, we got it rinsed off right away, and there's no residue this time, so just make sure you don't let it dry out in the sun. Super clean, it's perfectly clean. So 2 applications from pretty dirty to spotless. And then the Zepp Industrial Purple, same thing. We got it rinsed off right away. There's a little silver film on here, but that's actually silver spray paint overspray, so that's not going to come off. Okay, so as a consolation round, on the tires that had failed cleaners, I'm going to run our top performing cleaners just to reaffirm that they actually will clean off everything. Additionally, this will prove that the dirty tires that failed were not just lemons that couldn't be cleaned, which will confirm that the failed cleaners did in fact fail. So here we're going to do Super Clean versus Brake Buster. So if Super Clean cleans it and Brake Buster doesn't, we can confirm that Brake Buster is a bust, pun intended, and we'll fail it out of this test. On the tire that had Adams APC and Armor All, we're going to try Adams Tire and Rubber and Adams Wheel and Tire. The tire that had the Adams Tire and Rubber and Adams Wheel and Tire, we will be using Extra Tough and Autofanatics. And then we will take this little amount of purple power we have left and use it on a small patch of where the Brake Buster failed. So there's a lot of other things you can do to help yourself get more out of your tire cleaner and require less effort and input. One is do this in the shade so your tire cleaner is not drying while you're trying to scrub it in. Another thing that will help is if you use a hot pressure washer to help break up that dirt and loosen it so it'll lift its bond a little bit easier. One of the big things is if you're applying a tire dressing every week or every couple weeks, that's what really turns brown and sticks to the sidewall. So if you're not applying a tire dressing, it's going to be easier to clean your tire. And since I live out in gravel roads in the country, I can't apply tire dressings because 100 feet down the road, my tires are already completely caked with dust and it looks terrible. So I just want to clean my tires as best as possible and see how long I can get them to stay clean and black looking. What's really concerning to me is with the amount of time that I spent watching detailing and car cleaning videos, looking for insights on how to best clean a tire, which products are going to work the best and everything. Actually wasted a ton of time and a lot of money on watching those videos and money on buying the products that they're supporting in those videos, because they're sitting there literally just telling you to buy something because that company is paying that person anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to basically do a paid commercial. But they're not being upfront and telling you it's a paid advertisement. They're acting like they're giving you their honest review, and it's not honest at all. Okay, so we have Super Clean on the left and Brake Buster on the right. Brake Buster still left a lot of residue on this tire. Super Clean did pull everything right off, so we can finally put to rest Brake Buster is a failed tire cleaner. Now with Adam's Tire and Rubber on the left and Adam's Wheel and Tire on the right, the Wheel and Tire pulled everything right off. So the Wheel and Tire gets a pass. On the left, the Tire and Rubber left a ton of browning on there, so the Tire and Rubber is going to get a fail in this test. And then right here at the bottom, I came in with Super Clean and it pulled everything right off. So it just reconfirms that the Tire and Rubber is a failure. Back to this big tire, we did some Autofanatics and some Extra Tough. Neither one of them could clean this tire. This tire's been sitting outside for the 10 years that I've owned it, and who knows how long before then. Neither one of these cleaners could clean it either. So I'm just gonna mark this tire as a lemon. It's uncleanable. It's got some type of weird permanent staining on it. And then where we had the Brake Buster in the first two tests, I reapplied some Purple Power and it cleaned all the remaining gunk off the sidewall. So just again, another confirmation that Brake Buster is a failure. So thanks a ton for watching, guys. Here's a preview of my Duramax, which has the worst tires that exist in terms of browning. They're an anomaly. I've never been able to remove all of it, and I've never applied dressing to them. This will be the ultimate test to see if my results from this first phase of testing prove to be true. So stay tuned for part 2 of this series, where I'll give the final rankings of all 12 chemicals.